Welcome back. In this video, I'll be adding some finishing touches to this application and wrapping up this series. The first thing I want to do is make it so that all of the articles for a source are loaded when the source is added. The way that it works right now, the articles won't be added until the update loop wraps around and it scans that feed. But I think it would be a better user experience if, as soon as you add a source, all of the current articles for it get loaded in right there. So to do that, I'll need to open up the code to the routes, and that's going to be here in this sources post method, or this request handler here. So here's where we're inserting the new source from the feed. And what we need to do is grab the feed articles, right? And that's just going to be by calling feed.getArticles on that parsed feed, because we've already parsed it. So now we've got the articles, and the class method to add the articles from this feed articles object was insert from feed called on the article class. And if you recall, this takes in the source ID for the source that the articles belong to, and then that feed articles object. So if we go back here, we can just grab that source ID and then those feed articles, and that should do it. That should be all we need to have it to where when they add a new source, all of the articles associated with that source get added right then and there, and they don't have to wait until the update loop wraps around. So let's go ahead and test this out. Go to the terminal, and like always, we'll just do python3 run.py. That'll start it all up. Now we can go over to the browser and go to localhost 5000. So we've got our articles. We just have this wired science category and this NASA breaking news source. Those are the only two sources that we have. I'm going to go ahead and add another source. The source I'll add will be Krebs on security. So Brian Krebs' security blog. So I'll just add that. That looks good. Now if I go back to this feed, it's updated with all of these Krebs on security articles. So it works. That's pretty cool. The next feature I think would be nice to add is a different way to sort the articles. Right now they're only sorted by the date added, and maybe you want to be able to sort them by the date that they were published, or the title of the article, or maybe even the source of the article. So to do that, I'll go back to the editor. This is all going to happen here, because this is where the query to pull all those articles out is happening. This is our index get handler. So the first thing I want to do is grab a variable from the request path, or the request argument. This variable is going to be called order by, and it's going to have a default value which is added. So the current ordering is by the date added, and we'll keep that as the default ordering. But this is going to allow you to specify a little parameter in the URL that will change the ordering. So the default value for order by being added is going to have the same behavior that it currently has, which is just to order by the article.date added in descending order. So that's all good. But we can add another order by type. We'll say published in this case. And it's going to be pretty much exactly like that, like the date added line. But, you know, just change that to date published. So then if we wanted to add order by title, for instance, it's going to be really similar, except this time I'm not going to order it in descending order. So if you order by the title, it'll be in alphabetical order, like A to Z, instead of being Z to A, because that just seems more intuitive to me. And then another way we might want to order it is by the source. And I'm going to consider this by the source title. But the flag, the parameter that you pass will just say source. It's implied that it's title. And this one's a little bit more complicated because, right, the source title doesn't belong to the article itself. It belongs to the source table. And in order to access that title, we have to use a join. SQL Alchemy makes that pretty easy. So you can join with the source table like this. SQL Alchemy already knows the relationship that we have here. It knows that there's this, let's go back here. It knows that there's this source ID in the table, and there's this relationship called source that relates back to this source table using this source ID foreign key. So it already knows how to do the join. We just have to tell it, hey, do the join. And then after the join's made, we can add that order by source.title in this case. And it's also going to be an ascending, not descending order, because we want it to be A to Z, not Z to A. And unless I messed anything up here, that should be all it takes to add these new order by options to our application. So let's go ahead and restart the server. Looks good. Go to the browser. Let's reload it with the default option so it behaves exactly like it did before. That's always a good sign. But now we can say question mark order by, let's say order by the title. So now we get this title starting with A first. And you see it is in ascending order. It's going A to Z. So the title works. Let's maybe order it by the published date. It's harder to check that here, but I believe that it works. We can test that later. And then the more complicated one, ordered by the source. So we're getting all these Krebs on security first. And K is before N, so the fact that they all come first in this order does make sense. And N is before S. They are all grouped. So yeah, it looks like it works. At this point, I feel content to say that we have ourselves a working feed reader. There are plenty of other features that we could add, but it supports all the features that I think are essential for a decent reader. It might be interesting to add categories or tags that you can apply to different sources. Like maybe I want all of my science and space feeds grouped together and all of my InfoSec and programming feeds grouped together. And it would probably be a good idea to add the ability to remove sources. Like if Brian Krebs turns into a sellout, I might want to unsubscribe to his feed. In fact, the sources page is lacking in features and in style and could definitely use some improvements. But I'm going to leave these as challenges to you. And if you do end up building something from this project, I would love to see it, so be sure to leave a comment below. Well, that's it for this series. On to the next one. Bye!